Well, it's New Year's Eve. It's about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I've lost track of time, which is typical for me. I do lose track of time quite often. But I want to tell you, I want to talk about New Year's resolutions. I think my greatest resolution this year is to become more balanced, being balanced. That would pertain to me physically because I don't have great physical balance either. But I'm talking about emotional balance. And I wrote a post about it, and what other people have said about it is much more eloquent than what I have to say about it, except to say that I know that when all aspects of my being are not being awakened and being stimulated and are being allowed to express sorrow about, when all of the sorrows and the darknesses and the jubilations don't work together, then I'm not whole. I want to share something that happened this morning. Someone that I met, and I say this over and over again, my picture book, The Donkey Song, having been published by Random House Books, Random House Kids, Doubleday for Young Readers. That was one of the greatest miracles of my life. I had very little control over it. I tell everybody that God was the publisher and God was the writer and the angels were his editor or his publisher. But there was a human involved, a very able human too. And I thank God every day for her. But what I want to talk to you about is the fact that I wrote that book. Actually, I wrote it about 15 years ago. It was published 3 years ago after I successfully submitted it. But I wrote it about 15 years ago. For 15 years, I waited for God to do something with it, and he finally did. And what I most want to say today, that God's work with that book is not done. The book is published. I no longer have any legal rights to that book. I do get some tiny royalties off the book now and again, so it's not a big money maker, but it's still a big contributor in my life. Over the Christmas holidays, 2 different strangers sent me photographs of how that picture book has worked in their lives over the Christmas holiday. Those are 2 people that I would have never known had it not been for the Donkey Song. And the Donkey Song also has connected me to other people. Right before Christmas, I met a lady and her husband who are ministers from Georgia. And by the grace of God, they came to my studio, and by another grace of God, they bought my picture book. And by the greatest grace of all, they were moved by my picture book. Well, the lady of that team came to visit me this morning, and we talked about how waiting for things to happen is such a big part of our lives. I shared with her, a virtual stranger actually, I shared with her things about my life that I don't normally share. It's not that I'm a secretive person. I don't guess that's the last thing I am, is secretive. But it's just that I don't think people want to hear the less glamorous sides of my life, the parts of my life that remain unfinished. But I told her that over another great miracle that has happened this year that really has maybe something to do with the Donkey Song, but I opened this fabulous studio right before Christmas, and it is another miracle. God moves, and I say how far and where to, and it is literally something that God has brought together and that I'm reaping the glory of. But I met her in my studio this morning, and I told her that since Christmas Eve, I had not been in the studio because I needed to do something else with my life. I had done nothing but art and art studio for months, and I hadn't even painted. All I was doing was moving and boxing and unboxing and shelving and cleaning. No creativity involved, just getting the thing up and running. But I told her that I had my church's Christmas Eve party at my studio on Christmas Eve. And I got up and told the group how I was so thrilled to be able to share Christmas Eve with them because they were my family. They were effectively my family that I would want to spend Christmas Eve with. And I said to them this, "To God be the glory." And then I said, "Merry Christmas." Well, I want to repeat that today. To God be the glory. And of course, we want to hear great things He hath done. But what I want to say, that God still has work to do. He's still working with me. He sent me those photographs of a book that was published 3 years ago, how it was affecting people's lives. God still has work for us. And I told her, she and her husband were retired ministers, and I told her that I don't think their work is done. So I want to say this today. To God be the glory. His work is not done. We are asked to be our best, to do our best, and to be a thinking bunch of people, and to seek what it is that God wants us to do. But I think the biggest gift we can give ourselves is to let God do His work in our lives, because to God be the glory. His work is not done.